Good afternoon, I'm Jeff. I'm with Sewer Tech Northwest. Today we're at property address 2724 Southeast Kelly Street here in Portland. We're located down in the basement. We're going through a 2-inch kitchen sink clean out down here. The other clean outs are seized on and you'd have to cut into them to actually get them open at this point. Anyway, we've just inserted the camera. We're right where we tie onto the 4-inch cast iron main line under the floor. Checking the overall condition and serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. We'll zero the camera counter out right here and refer to this spot as the point of access. Pretty much everything up to this point is just a sink drain. Anyway, here we go. We do have water running. That tie in there at the top of the pipe, that is that clean out at the front foundation. So we're now out, we just passed out into the house here, or I'm sorry, outside. And transitions here to 6-inch concrete pipe, 35 feet out. And then over to clay. You can see this concrete is showing quite a bit of aggregate rock through. It's got some age on it. And then we went to clay there for just a moment, and then now it's back to concrete. Now we'll have to look at this turn here on the way back when it's drained out. I'm looking straight ahead. There's kind of a white diagonal line running from the joint down into the flow line. It may be possibly a root or a crack. It could also be just staining in the pipe. We'll have another look in a minute. Looks like a fungus growing there. Another spot we'll look at. I got some terracotta clay pipe. This joint here is fairly offset. My camera may not pop over this here. Yeah, that's going to be as far as we're able to get there. So we'll let the pipe drain out completely before rolling back. I'm going to go ahead and locate the camera head right here. I'm going to put an X marking here. I do recommend fixing this joint. It looks pretty beat up. It's separate or offset, separated. It's probably allowing some water to seep out of the ground and water to seep into the line here. Alright, where I located the camera right here just before the offset and separated joint here. This is right at the curb. I put an X marking. It's only about a foot or so from the curb. If I were to push the camera all the way in here, we'd be basically smack dab underneath the curb at that point there. So in Multnomah County, the city takes responsibility from curb to curb. I believe we are in Multnomah County here. I would double check just to look into that. I would send the video to the city so that they're aware of it. The line beyond this, you know, it's a very old pipe. You may have issues beyond this point. It looks like a fair amount of stuff is collecting here. And that's kind of the issue. You've got a big dip there in the line and a lip for stuff to get hung up on. And more than likely, with as bad as this joint's looking, it's probably letting at least some water escape the line there. This joint right here has just got a bunch of fungus growing out of it. That's not a root intrusion. That joint there as well is causing, it has some separation. Now, for the most part, at least out to the curb here, the line is functioning. It's just right at the end of it's getting to the end of its lifespan. We've got a lot of separated joints throughout the line, and then we have aggregate rock showing in the flow line throughout the whole concrete section. So it's one that's functioning. At this point in its existence, I would recommend doing a pipe liner on it to line this whole thing. We'll check to make sure there aren't any bellies in it, but that's often your best option and the cheapest in a circumstance like this. And if you have a line that drains well but is in rough shape, you just put a new line down the old one essentially, and you can avoid doing all the digging that traditional trenching would require. All right, locate the camera head here. We're in the front yard area at this point. And we're getting in about 7 feet deep there as well. All right, I'm going to put a white T marking here. We're just past the cast iron transition. All right, this is about 8 feet or so out from the front of the house, marked with a white T, about 6 feet deep here. Due to the wear and tear on the line, and keep in mind, the line is functioning. It's as far as getting debris from point A to point B, or at least to the street curb, it's doing its job. Once you hit the curb, though, you've got a bad offset. The pipe's wearing out there. It's also separated by about 1 inch or more, likely letting stuff escape and come into the line. Now, I would recommend contacting the city about that one. That's right where responsibility changes hands. So it's definitely worth looking into. But the amount of wear this line's showing here, and we've got a separated joint in pretty much every connection, I would recommend doing a liner to update the concrete section. All right, we're coming back underneath the basement floor at this point here. All the cast iron pipe we've scoped here is in good shape. That right there is a piece of rust that's busted loose from the inside of the pipe. And at this point here, we're going to start going back into the sink drain. Now, my camera was able to bore a fair amount of junk out of this thing, but I would highly recommend getting this drain cleaned. Alright, that completes the scope here. Once again, Now, due to the rough condition of the concrete, the separated joints, and the offset where the camera hangs up at about 63 feet, I do recommend updating the concrete. And the most ideal way you could do this one would be to do a liner on it. You do need to contact the city, though, about the offset joint out by the curb that the camera stopped at to find out how they're going to look at that as far as responsibility goes. It's right where responsibility changes hands, so it's kind of a hard one to know. I would recommend a rescope after any repair work is done, just to make sure it's done correctly.